don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hello there. It's been a while since I've done my reading. I've been preoccupied with work and trying to just figure out other things. Yeah, but I need to get back to it. I've been working on another book. I have a bad habit of really just picking up creating more books than I probably should. So I end up with a ton on the back burner and not really anything coming out. That's my downfall of being a creative person, I guess. It's funny. I have to uplift myself by calling myself things. Okay, I'm on chapter 9, Standing Army. That's the chapter is called Standing Army. The days to standing became more and more difficult for Ash. As the caravan picked up more people excited to join the army from neighboring towns, Ash once again became the white monster in the group. He had forgotten what it felt like to be the one on the outside. Peter became his defender and had started getting aggressive with people who were insulting Ash in his presence or within his hearing distance. Peter always looked to be struggling afterwards, and even though Ash told him, "Let it slide, I am used to it," Peter looked more troubled, as it reminded him of how he had treated Ash before they were friends. The messenger turned traveler guide announced, "We will be getting to Standing tomorrow." We will be arriving at Standing tomorrow. Some of you need to get some more firewood for our campsite tonight. "Me, I will," Garrett and Hollis both responded as they jumped up from their places next to Ash and Peter from outside the main group, leaving them alone in the starry night. As soon as they took off into the woods, the silence fell over Ash and Peter. Hollis and Garrett were the pair who kept everything lively. And when they weren't around, there was no group. Ash knew that and enjoyed that about his two friends, as they were the heart of their crew. "Ash. Hey, Ash," Peter said into the night, loud enough for only Ash to hear. "What is it?" Silence fell once again upon them. Ash stared up at the sky. "Sorry." Peter finally got out. Ash's thoughts had wandered off and had begun to float. A few pebbles Ash's thoughts had wandered off as he began to float a few pebbles and rocks around himself without noticing. It had been a minute since Peter had followed up the eye with "sorry." Ash casually said, "What?" and instantly felt stupid for saying it. He lost his concentration and dropped the stones. "I am sorry," Peter replied. "For what?" "I had never thought what it was like for you before we became friends." He fell silent again. Ash could not see him due to the canopy of the trees and it being a particularly dark, moonless night. "Oh, that is fine. Peter continued, cutting Ash off. That is just it. How, after all of what I did to you, were you okay with it? And for cycles?" Peter began to pick up his pace as if he had argued this subject with himself many times before. "It has just been 4 days, and already I feel like beating up all those people. And you just let it slide. Why?" Before we were friends, who hated me? Ash asked. Everyone, Peter said in a hushed voice. Are you suggesting I fight with the world, then? Ash asked rhetorically. Or should I wait until the day we have an understanding and become friends? How did you come to that conclusion? My father told me. My father told me that when I realized that I was seen as different. You have a great father. Silence fell upon the pair and continued even when Hollis and Gerd returned with the wood, as they brushed themselves, making the campfire. As they busied themselves making the campfire, once the fire started, they all fell asleep. The following day, as the sun was high in the sky, excitement burst through the caravan. Standing was just ahead of them. As soon as Ash and the others in his crew crested the hill, where the enthusiasm in the caravan began, they saw Standing, which had more wooden structures than they had seen before. Than they had seen before in any of the other villages. And the houses were even constructed in a different style than anything they had ever previously witnessed. Those are some big buildings, Hollis stated with admiration. How tall are they? Gerd inquisitively asked. They made it to the main gate, which was also far bigger than any gate they had ever seen. It was stone lined at the bottom, about the height of a person, then wood on top of that, making it a little more than twice the height of an average human. There was a man outside the main gate who looked to be in his third decade. Now, you little guppies, he spat out. Now, you little guppies, he spat out. The new group of initiates followed. And then I'm really terrible at this. Really not very well at concentrating right now. Shoot. Can't even turn pages. Okay. Now, you little guppies, he spat to the new group of initiates. There we go. Follow me to the training ground. He walked along the outside wall as they followed him. All in the convoy were a little disappointed that they would not be able to see the town, but there would be time for that later. You will be receiving training as well as building the barracks for the next recruits. We have some space since we set the first force to the front lines, but we are expecting many more to be arriving in the coming months. So, the man rambled on, but Ash was paying more attention to the structures which he could see over the other side of the wall. He was fascinated to see how they had been built and how they had been built, and would have loved to have speaked with the minds who had developed the architecture. Hey, you sickly, the man shouted. Ash, Peter called out. Ash turned to see the man looking directly at him. All the others in the procession had lined up in formation. Most of them were laughing at him. He had been so distracted by the building's designs that he had stopped to stare over the wall and had forgotten his purpose there. This did not look good on his part. He rushed over to the line. Ash, what the heck? Peter asked. Isn't it fascinating? Ash replied. Not if it makes you look stupid, Hollis answered back. Ash, Peter, and Gerd all looked at Hollis. Now, if Hollis is saying that, then it was really bad, said Peter jokingly. Clearly, Ash said. Yep, Gerd agreed. They spent only a bit of time in going through the drills. Then they were sent to the builders in order to be put to work. There were already new recruits at the yard over the past week who had poured in from all over the human settlements. Ooh, that's a mouthful. From the human settlements. They would not start their training in earnest until enough barracks were completed and enough replacements arrived to take the positions of those being sent to war. So sickly, the man in charge of the building said, addressing Ash. The other recruits were laughing, repeating the name sickly. Peter was about to lash out, but Ash stayed him. Yes, he answered. It is your job to dig the new latrine, the man in charge said while handing him a shovel, which was basically a stick with a long, wide, flat stone tied to one end. A group of the other new recruits from the towns were having a big laugh at Ash's expense. Ash grabbed the shovel. Where would you like it? He asked respectfully, not breaking eye contact with the man in charge. The man grumbled a bit under his breath. Just start digging a new pit over by the tree line. He motioned in a general direction, then turned to walk away as if the matter was done. Sir, Peter, who had been trying to hold himself back, shouted. The man turned around. What? He asked. Well, at least have us help him, Peter said, including an uncomfortable Hollis and Gerd in his request. It would get done a lot quicker. The man smirked at Hollis and Gerd. Do you want to be lumped in with him? He asked them while pointing to Ash. They looked at each other before hesitantly responding, yes. Then, quit standing around and get to work, he shouted at them. Ash turned to Peter, tossed him the shovel. You hold on to this. Me and Hollis have an easy time. Me and Hollis should have an easy time with the digging. Yeah, well, I'm going to stop there. That's the first part of Chapter 9. There are a few things I've already noticed I would have liked to change. There are things that were put together which I wish I should have broken up, and expressions that I wish I should have added. Like simply smiling. Like the last part I just read. There should have been a smiling. You know what? I'll get to this later. Thank you all for watching. Read to you next time. Toodles!